Duke definitely left their mark on the 2025 NBA draft. 5 Duke Blue Devils found their new home. Let's get after it.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man. The Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is J.J. Jackson. So happy to have you here with us today on Friday, June 27th, 2025. Locked On Blue Devils is your one-stop shop where we discuss everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics, talking a whole lot about Duke men's basketball and celebrating the NBA draft that just came to a close. We'll have our friend Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham on the program with us today to break it all down, talk about the strengths and weaknesses of all these areas with Duke basketball players heading off to the NBA. 5 guys drafted. Incredible stuff from Duke. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating and written review. Like this video, share it with your friends as we're continuing to grow our audience there on YouTube, getting closer to 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. Do us a favor, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Your support means so much. You can find us on X at LO_Blue Devils, on Instagram and TikTok as well. So without further ado, Kevin Connelly is here with us on the program today. And man, there's certainly years where we've only got a few Duke players to celebrate. 5 guys headed off to the NBA officially, Kevin.
Yeah, JJ, it was a great week for the Duke basketball team. You mentioned 5 guys getting drafted. In context of college basketball and NBA basketball, they're just the 19th team ever to have 5 or more players taken in a single draft. First time since Duke did it in 2022, and they also had their starting 5 drafted after that run to the Final Four with Paolo Banchero when he went number 1 overall. So it was a great week for Duke basketball in Brooklyn, seeing 5 guys being selected over the 2 days of the NBA draft.
Yeah, and 3 top 10 picks. We did that in 2019, of course, with Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett, and Cam Reddish. Now we get to celebrate 3 top 10 picks once again, and then Seion James and Tyrese Proctor going in the second round as well. There's also the Cedric Coward dynamic that we can certainly talk about and celebrate. And I know that you got a chance to catch up with him in New York a little bit earlier this week, so I'm going to get to that a little bit later. But like everybody, we got to celebrate at the top. Yet again, Duke basketball, the number 1 overall pick. 1999, welcome Elton Brand. 2011, you've got Kyrie Irving. Zion in 2019, Paolo in 2022, and here in 2025, we're capturing the flag. The flag has been raised. The main event is heading to Dallas as Cooper Flagg did officially go number 1 overall.
Yeah, JJ, if you're looking at those puns, Duke was trying to capture the flag, and now the flag is gone.
Yeah,
the flag is no longer in Durham, North Carolina, although it'll always be a home for Cooper and the rest of the guys, I guess. But, JJ, we've been talking about this kid, for at least 2 years now,
a long
right?
time, yeah.
And what more else is there to say? He's the number 1 overall pick. Everyone went through the details that he's supposed this past season when he was a freshman at Duke, he was supposed to be a high school senior, and he ends up being the National Player of the Year. He's the best player in college basketball. Everybody knew he was going to be the number 1 overall pick in this draft class ever since he reclassified into the 2024 recruiting class and joining Duke a year early. There's really not much more else to say about him. The one thing I guess I'll add to it, in being around him over these last couple of days in New York, it's crazy to see. And it's what happens with young kids, the maturity process. Yeah. I remember covering a couple of his high school games when Montverde came up to the New York tri-state area for a couple of games and interviewing him after the game. Still kind of shy and quiet and not really giving you much of an answer when trying to talk in these interviews. And then covering a couple of games with Duke in the regular season and then in the NCAA tournament, you saw him, you saw the progression. You saw him, I guess, feel a little bit more comfortable in his own skin and give you a little bit more of detailed answers, what you're looking for as a reporter, right? And then this past week in Brooklyn, talking to him a couple of times, and you could just tell how excited he was. You could tell that this is the moment kind of he's been waiting for almost his whole life, and it was finally here. And just giving really nice answers and detailed answers to those who asked questions to him. I know there were some videos after he got drafted waiting for him to do some television interviews, and a kid from the stand says, "Cooper, can you sign my jersey?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, right now. Like, I can't do it right now. Like, I'm about to go on stage and do an interview and stuff like that." So it was really cool watching him be able to take all this in and seeing his dreams come true.
Yeah, and sporting some facial hair now that we hadn't seen before, like maturing in front of our very eyes as the maturation, the manhood process continues for Cooper Flagg at just 18 years old, set to sign a very, very lucrative rookie deal at the next level. And now he's got some hair there on the chin and sporting the new look. I like it for Cooper Flagg himself. I enjoyed ESPN and the entire draft coverage unfolding with Cooper Flagg and his family being mic'd up throughout the course of the day. Look, we knew that this was going to be the draft pick as soon as the Mavericks won the lottery, that this is where he would end up. But how special was it to see Cooper so caught up in the moment to where you see him sitting at the table like, come on, what is taking so long? As he just felt like time wasn't moving fast enough.
Yeah, and I think that's something we've seen throughout this season, right? We've seen his parents front and center at games. We've seen his grandparents front and center at games. We know how close the relationship he had with his brother Ace, who's going to be a freshman this upcoming season at Maine. So, yeah, I think we've all gotten an inside look at the Flagg family over the last 10 to 12 months. And you're really – and, I mean, I don't know how much more you're going to see of the Flagg family going forward, right? Are they going to be set up in Dallas? Are they going to be at every game? And it's the NBA. It's an 82-game grind. And I'm sure they're going to spend a lot of time in Maine as well with their other son who's beginning his college career. So I'm sure we'll still see a lot of the Flagg family on TV and on social media. But if this was kind of them now going back behind the curtain for a little while, it was certainly a great moment for the family to kind of go out on.
Without a doubt. So he's drafted number 1 overall. We saw Coach Scheyer there at the Barclays Center as well for all 3 guys taken in the top 10 for the Blue Devils. Cooper Flagg with hugs to all of his family, and then also got some love from Coach Scheyer prior to walking up onto the stage with Duke graduate NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. What a flex that is each and every draft year by the Blue Devils that you're able to do something like that when the commissioner is the one greeting the newest draft picks.
Yeah, no, that's always cool, and I think some people kind of forget about that as well. That Adam Silver does have some Duke blood in him. But you know, JJ, it's crazy for all the success Duke has had, even going back to Coach K, obviously in the NBA draft. Duke this year had 5 players picked in the NBA draft. When you look at the last 2 drafts combined, only had 4 picks. And that's not to say those drafts were bad, right? Having 2 guys picked in 23 with Derek Lively and Dariq Whitehead, and 2 guys picked in 24 with Jared McCain, and then Kyle Filipowski, who I think was the second pick of the second round last year. But it's like when you're trying to compare, it's like, oh, Duke only had 2 guys picked in 23 and only 2 guys picked in 24, and then had 5 guys picked in 25. Kind of crazy when you slice it down. It's like, no, having 2 guys picked in a single draft is really good. Look at Kentucky this year. They were one of the best teams in the country, and I don't think they had a first-round pick. I don't think they had a pick till early in the second round. So it's just kind of crazy what Duke was able to do. And you mentioned the top of the show here, 3 first-round picks and all picked inside the top 10.
It's incredible stuff. And look, we've got more guys to celebrate here in 2025. A big fit for Cooper Flagg there in Dallas. We're already also, now that this draft has concluded, seeing a way too early look at 2026. And we'll be able to get into that next week on the program. But people are pretty excited about the number of Duke guys already in mock drafts going into next season. Let's talk about how the next few picks unfolded for the Blue Devils earlier in the week from the Barclays Center. We've got Kevin Connelly here with us from Ball Durham, Locked On Blue Devils. We'll continue in a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. That's right. Game Time is the absolute best and a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends and family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. The easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, merchandise, or even invite a bigger group to come to the game with you. Game Time makes all of this possible. It makes buying tickets fast and easy as prices on the app actually go down the closer you get to first pitch. They've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that makes you worry out of buying. It's the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB. I'm already looking here over these next few weeks at the amazing deals you've got on Game Time. Obviously, out of North Carolina, here in Braves country, awesome trips down to Atlanta there to Truist Park. Or maybe you're looking on the app and you want to go up with Kevin Connelly and see those Yankees play at Yankee Stadium. All of it's possible thanks to our friends at Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Once again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Game Time, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. Yes, sir. Let's keep going. Kevin's here with us today. We're talking about this 2025 NBA draft. Cooper goes number 1. We're curious who's going to be the next Blue Devil selected. And the in-state Charlotte Hornets with the 4th overall pick draft Jon Scheyer. I was thrilled that the Hornets drafted him. Another Duke Blue Devil getting the opportunity to play for Charlotte. And you look at the roster makeup, like there is a really, really good opportunity for Jon Scheyer to come in and play right away, Kevin.
Yeah, 100%, JJ. And we've heard this throughout the whole pre-draft process, right? That Jon Scheyer was generating a lot of buzz, that he could be one of those guys that's picked a little bit higher than most people had anticipated. And I think the whole Ace Bailey saga kind of sped that process up. And we know, obviously, it was well documented, Ace Bailey not working out for the Philadelphia 76ers, who had the number 3 overall pick, and reports that his camp told a team in the top 5, don't take him. And a lot of people are assuming that that was Philadelphia, and they don't take him. They go with VJ Edgecombe. And then Charlotte's there at 4, another reported team that Ace Bailey and his camp did not want him to go to. And they said, okay, that's fine. We can go ahead and take a guy like Jon Scheyer, who could really fortify our backcourt, bring us some shooting, maybe the best shooter in the draft, Con is. And you look at this Charlotte team and kind of been the punchline of a lot of jokes here in the NBA over the last couple of years. And I think with this draft specifically is they were looking for not only really good basketball players, but also high quality people as well to try to bring a new face around their franchise when you have guys like LaMelo Ball, who obviously is very talented, but has had some injury issues over the past couple of years. Brandon Miller, who has played well in his few years in the NBA, but I don't think necessarily people see him as one of those budding superstars.
Also injured a lot.
In the league. Yeah, injured a lot as well. So Charlotte's just looking for guys who are going to come in and play hard. And obviously, I'm very familiar with the 4 guys they took in their draft class with Jon Scheyer and then Seion James, we're going to get to in a little bit. And then they also took 2 Big East guys as well, as Liam McNeely from UConn and Ryan Kalkbrenner from Creighton. So I really I know probably have a lot of Charlotte Hornet fans listening to this podcast. I'm a big fan of what they did and kind of how they're trying to give themselves a new image in the NBA with these 4 players.
Well, and Charlotte had a lot of Duke flavor this past year, right? When you've got Jon Scheyer there as the 4th pick joining them. But this last season that just concluded, the Hornets had Mark Williams on their roster, along with Seth Curry and Wendell Moore Jr., all under contract right now for the Hornets. On draft night, we see Mark Williams traded, though, after the Hornets make the selection of Jon Scheyer. Shortly thereafter, they trade Mark Williams to the Phoenix Suns, and that ends up being the 10th pick as well in Kaman Malawach. So Man goes in the top 10. He's now headed out west to Phoenix, and you look at a lot of the mock drafts leading up to this, Kevin, it didn't seem like Phoenix would be the destination there for Malawach, and yet there he goes.
Well, people didn't think Phoenix was going to be the destination for him because, honestly, Kaman slid a little bit.
Yeah.
People had him projected right around that 7 or 8 range. I think a lot of Nets fans, and there aren't that many of them in the New York area, if we're being honest. It's a big Knicks town. They were hoping they took Malawach at 8, and they go with the guard from BYU, Igor Demin, and kind of you look at what the Nets did, and they accumulated, what was it, 5 first-round picks, and they picked every single one of them. People thought, were they going to package those picks and move up the draft and take an Ace Bailey, because it was reported that maybe one of the teams he wanted to go to was the Brooklyn Nets. But no, they stood pat and got a lot of criticism for a lot of their picks, to be honest with you. But I think it's interesting for Phoenix, because I can see both sides of the argument, where Phoenix didn't have a center last year. They were very weak in the front court and in the interior. And then in the span of 10 minutes in the NBA draft, they trade for Mark Williams and they draft Kaman Malawach. So how's the playing time going to work between the two of them? I would have to imagine Mark Williams is going to be the starting center. And remember, for Mark Williams, he was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers at the NBA trading deadline. And I don't know all the inside details, but once he got to Los Angeles, failed the physical, the trade got voided. He goes back to Charlotte. Dalton Connect and company go back to Los Angeles. And it's kind of awkward for both teams and those players for the remainder of the season. And kind of when that happened, you knew that Mark Williams wasn't going to stay in Charlotte for that much longer. And he gets shipped out on draft night and goes to Phoenix. And Phoenix, who already made a blockbuster deal on the day of Game 7 of the NBA Finals, sending Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets, are trying to rebuild on the fly, I guess, because still have Devin Booker and Bradley Beal on their roster.
Yeah, so Charlotte, we talked about, had 3 Duke players this past year. The same for Phoenix this past season as well, as they had Grayson Allen, of course, then Tyus Jones and Mason Plumlee were all on the roster there. Both Tyus Jones and Mason Plumlee are now free agents. So you look at the front court, you've got Mark Williams, you've got Kaman Malawach. The Suns, if they want to bring back another reserve big, they can do that in Mason Plumlee, although it's crazy to think Mason Plumlee is now 35 years old. So we're getting towards the end of his playing career, Kev.
Yeah, no doubt. And when I read that Mason Plumlee was on the Phoenix Suns, I said, really? Not that I was tuning into that many Phoenix Suns games last year, but those Plumlee brothers, they find a way to stick around. Miles certainly had a long NBA career, and then Marshall a little bit in the NBA before he went into the armed forces. So you stick around, you got a good head on your shoulders, you come in and work hard every day, you're going to stick in the NBA.
And no doubt about that. So Duke, 3 top 10 picks, and we felt like the entire starting 5 would get drafted going into the NBA draft. They certainly were. So we'll get into the second round in just a moment and talk about the next couple of Blue Devils that were selected. Thank you so much for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen and your first watch here today. For your second listen, make sure that you check out the Portal Show. Locked On's very own Brian Smith has you covered with all the latest rumors, portal entries, signings, and so much more. He wants to keep you updated on the rapid changes to college football. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, be sure to check out Locked On College Basketball with hosts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. They're breaking it all down, talking college hoops 365. So find that wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Let's bring Kevin Connelly back into today's show. He's here from Ball Durham, joining me on the program today. And Kevin, we head into the second round. 2 starters left at the guard and wing position there for the Blue Devils with Seion James and Tyrese Proctor. Going into the night, I think a lot of people, and if you look at many outlets, you would have forecasted Proctor to go before Seion James, but that's not what ended up happening. Just 3 picks into the second round, we see that Seion James is now headed to Charlotte to be a member of the Hornets.
Yeah, kind of crazy, right, JJ? And not a surprise that Seion James was picked, but where he was picked, kind of what you were saying. I'll add to it with not even the fact that he was picked before Tyrese Proctor, but it was the fact that, I mean, he was 3 picks away from being a first-round pick.
Yep.
Like, if Charlotte had the 30th overall pick, like, they very well might have been taking Seion James as the final pick of the first round, which was crazy. And Seion James, it's kind of like the perfect college basketball story. It's what college basketball should be about. He spends 4 years at Tulane. He's a great player on the court. He does tremendous work in the community, and then gets his degree, and then as a graduate student comes to Duke and is a key piece in them trying to win a national championship, shoots 40% from three-point range. You see his name, especially late in the year, floated around. He could be a second-round draft pick. Obviously, he did very good in the combine and the pre-draft workouts, and he finds himself in the low 30s as a second-round pick in the NBA draft. He's going to get himself, I don't know if it's a guaranteed contract. I don't know the ins and outs of the NBA and their finances and how all the contracts work, because it can get very confusing. I tried to learn some of that this week, and trust me, it can get very confusing. But kind of what we were saying with Con and the Hornets and how they're trying to reshape their image, I think there's a chance for Seion James to stick on this roster, because Charlotte's going to be looking for guys who are tough, and that's what Seion James is. He could be a 3-and-D wing. If he shoots 40% at Duke, he's going to try to replicate that in the pros. And he's not going to be afraid of anything. So I think those are versatile, toughness, anything you want, he can adapt his game to. And I think that's a really important attribute to have in the NBA this day and age. And I think Seion James, I think he has a really good chance at sticking on this Hornets roster one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the roster for Charlotte and what a big get it is. We already mentioned in the backcourt the injury history that somebody like LaMelo Ball has for the Hornets, which creates more opportunities for playing time for other guys. Obviously, the Hornets, in a perfect world, your best player is able to play more. The guy that's been an all-star on your squad, he's healthy and he's good to go. That just has not been the case. We've gotten to a point, though, Kevin, where with Duke having its footprint all over the NBA, we're walking into several scenarios where Duke guys are now competing head-to-head, not only for playing time, but often roster spots, right? Like Malawach and Mark Williams in Phoenix, they're both going to be on the roster. They're going to be competing for a lot of playing time. You look at Seion James and where he's at, and I mentioned Wendell Moore Jr. coming over late in the season to the Hornets. Like, those guys are very much so going to be competing head-to-head to be on the roster. Hopefully they're both on the team. But, man, it's a good thing when your program has guys all over the place that they're actually competed against one another for a roster spot.
Yeah, they're all part of the brotherhood, but once they put that NBA uniform on, they're competing for a roster spot. And should mention that I think it was last year the Hornets did some of their training camp in Durham at Duke. So I don't know if that's in the work. Yeah, I don't know if that's in the works again for them to be back at Duke and have some training camp and some practices inside the practice facility and inside Cameron. But if they do, it'd be certainly a nice welcome home for some of those Blue Devils on the roster. And JJ, I do have to mention one of my favorite parts of the NBA draft and following all the people on Twitter was our guy Jordan. Jordan, I think he said, especially on Thursday night when the Hornets took Seion, it was like Christmas morning for him again. Yeah. Not only was he so excited that they finally took his wish came true that they took Con 4th overall, but then they get Seion at 32nd overall. I was laughing with Jordan's tweets throughout the NBA draft. He was funny. I know he's a big Hornets fan, and obviously everyone knows how big of a Duke fan he is. And his team gets 2 of the Duke guys early in the draft.
Big time. Yeah, it's super exciting to see all that unfold. And I'm excited to have J-Man back on the show here again soon to be able to talk about the new Buzz City Duke squad that we've got going on there. So, all right, one more guy to go that we got to talk about here today, Kevin. And again, we mentioned Seion being so close to a first-round selection. A lot of people thought going into the day that it was going to be Tyrese Proctor. Actually, ESPN's Jonathan Givony did a second-round mock draft just prior to coverage going live and thought with one of those 2 selections, the Hornets would take Tyrese Proctor. They ended up taking Seion James instead. We saw Tyrese fall a little bit, but goes 49th to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
As we're getting through the 40s, JJ, I'm sitting and watching the draft in Brooklyn, and I'm like, this is weird. Like, and I keep thinking, Tyrese Proctor hasn't been picked yet. Tyrese Proctor hasn't been picked yet. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, boy, like, did he get bad advice from somebody? Like, did he make a mistake? Like, what's going through his mind right now? Should he have come back to Duke for a senior season? And then he finally goes 49, and you take a big sigh of relief. It's like, okay, like he got picked, thank goodness. But then you're like, still, like, this feels like it could have been a mistake. And from a business decision, he could have made more money at Duke and taken his chances in a year from now in the NBA draft. But then the report comes out, and I forget who, I believe it was on the ESPN broadcast, is that the Cleveland Cavaliers are giving him a guaranteed roster spot. They're treating him at pick 49 like they took him at pick 32. And that was huge for Tyrese Proctor. And that not only like, all right, he made the right decision, but it was just a big sigh of relief that, okay, he didn't make the wrong decision. He has a team that really wanted him, that was looking out for him, and is going to treat him like a very high draft pick that they took in the late first round or early second round.
Yeah, as he's being drafted, it was Shams Charania and Bobby Marks talking about, hey, Cleveland's going to give him a guaranteed roster spot. He's going to be on the squad. And this is, by the way, a Cavaliers team that was first in the Eastern Conference this past season. They're bringing a lot of guys back from last year's squad. They've got them in good contract situations. So how about Tyrese Proctor, the ultimate winner at Duke, and now he's getting to go to play for a winning team to start his NBA career?
Yeah, certainly. And because the Cavaliers are so good, at least this past year, and I mean, right now they are the favorites to win the Eastern Conference, given especially all the injuries that we've seen in the East in this postseason, with Jason Tatum, obviously, and everyone talking about Tyrese Halliburton, and even go earlier in the playoffs with Damian Lillard. I don't know how much playing time is going to be there for Tyrese Proctor on the NBA team this year. I'm just going to be quite honest. I think he definitely will have some time in the G League. When you have a loaded backcourt like Cleveland has, it's going to be tough for a rookie to carve out some playing time. So I think that's something certainly worth monitoring as we go forward throughout the summer and into the fall when training camps arrive.
Incredible year for Duke, all the way to the Final Four. Again, still we have some stinging feelings from not being able to fully get it done and win a national championship, but you don't go to a Final Four every single season. And Duke did this year, and you get to celebrate that by having 5 of your players drafted into the NBA. What a banner year it was for Duke basketball. Jon Scheyer has now had 9 draft picks in his first 3 years. We've got a pretty good average going there for the program. And I know that's some of the things that you've been writing about lately over there at Ball Durham, Kevin. Tell us about your work and how people can tap in.
Yeah, over at Ball Durham, we had a great team covering the NBA draft from wall to wall. Anything you could possibly want on these players, on these teams, how they fit, what the outlook could be. And then I know you mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, JJ, turning your attention to now this current team and where they could possibly go in the 2026 NBA draft. One player we didn't get in detail about yet, Cedric Coward.
Sure.
Let me just say about Cedric Coward, I was blown away. And we saw videos of the NBA draft combine of him talking about his process and him talking about Duke. And on Tuesday during the pre-draft media availability, I was able to talk with Cedric for quite a while. And man, is this kid impressive. I mean, he'll just blow you away. And I was obviously there getting a story and talking to him about Duke and how he went through this process and everything. And I mean, he was just so appreciative of Jon Scheyer and obviously no hard feelings. Jon Scheyer was rooting for him. They had great communication throughout the whole pre-draft process. No one was left in the dark on either way. And he kind of really went into detail about how much Jon Scheyer cares about the players, not just what they do on the court, but also what they do off the court. Sure. And he cares about them as people, not just as players. And I mean, I have a story up on it that I wrote a couple of days ago. And the biggest thing that blew me away, Cedric Coward told me, if Jon Scheyer, he can be the next Coach K if he wants to.
That's awesome to hear.
And this is a guy who never played 1 second for him on in a game on a court. Just got to know him throughout a recruiting process, never went through a full practice with him. And so that was really something like, wow, that's impressive for somebody who has a relationship with Jon Scheyer, but never played for him, say that. So I wish him the best of luck. I think he's ending up with Memphis.
Yep.
Right. I think Portland picked him, but he got traded to Memphis. Yeah. So wish him the best of luck there. I know he'll be a footnote in Duke basketball history, kind of like Sean Livingston and some other players who were committed to Duke and didn't get there and play a game for them. But yeah, definitely rooting for him because he seems like an awesome kid. And when you look at his story, going from Division III, beginning his college career to a top 20 pick in the NBA draft, top 15 pick in the NBA draft, man, that's a special story, and rooting for him to continue his success.
Yeah. Dude, Kevin, I teased Cedric Coward at the start of the show, and then here I am about to totally forget all about that. So thank you again for bringing that up because that is something certainly to celebrate. 11th overall pick for Cedric Coward. We were playing the video frequently on this show and reacting to it that you're mentioning of him at the draft combine. And one of the things he says is, if I find out I'm going in the lottery, then yeah, I'm going to go to the NBA. Well, guess what, Cedric Coward? You went in the lottery. You made the right decision. They did announce Washington State with the official selection there. But worth noting, as soon as he's drafted, ESPN brings the Duke angle into this. We see him on the visit. They, are talking about his commitment there to Duke. So, yeah, we'll semi be able to claim this guy for many, many years to come.
Yeah, and just to close, I don't want to go too long on Cedric Coward because he never officially played for Duke. But one of the other things he told me, it was like he really trusted his agent and his team and those around him, and he was going fully off their advice. And if they told him, I don't know, I think you should go back, you should go play at college, he said, yeah, I was all in. If they told me to go back to play for college, I was completely all in and ready to play for Duke. But he thought he was good enough. His agent and people around him thought he was good enough. So he took that leap of faith, and it obviously paid off for him.
It did. Well, go read the full story over at Ball Durham. Kevin, you'll be back with us again next week. I'm looking forward to talking then, okay?
Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. That brings our week here on the program to a close. Thank you so much for making us a part of your daily routine. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe wherever it is that you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you on Monday. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.